Hello everyone, I hope you all will be safe and sound as we have completed the second chapter in history, that is about from trade to territory. In that chapter that we have discussed many things about battles, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, and how the company just tried to control over the different Indian territories, different Indian provinces. So after this one, the third chapter that has been given about the ruling the countryside, ruling the other parts of the subcontinent. Countryside means the other parts, okay, of the subcontinent, mean to say here about India. How the company made its control over the different parts of the country. So here they have started the chapter by giving an this one painting. So the painting mainly it was just made by a painter that is accepting the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha by the Robert Clive from the Mughal rulers in 1765. So after this one, they have just explained the chapter by giving the main theme, that is the company becomes the Diwan. The company, it becomes the main ruler over there. What happened? See, on 12th of August 1965, the Mughal emperor appointed the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal. So the Mughal emperor in 1765, he has transferred his power to the East India Company, and this company became the Diwan of Bengal, mainly the ruler of Bengal. The actual event most probably took place in Robert Clive tent. So what the actual event, whatever the painting have shown over there, so this main event that most probably maybe it took place in the Robert Clive's tent, where the Robert Clive was staying, and this at this place this particular event took place with a few Englishmen and Indians as witnesses, with some of the Britishers who were over there as well as some Indians also as the evidence as a witness. But in the painting above, the event is shown as a majestic occasion taking place in a grand setting. So whatever the painting they have shown upside, this is showing as a majestic occasion for the Britishers taking place in a grand setting. The painter was commissioned by Clive to record the memorable events in Clive's life. So whoever the painter who has painted this above pic, so this particular painter appointed and commissioned by the Robert Clive to record all the memorable events whatever took place in the life of the Robert Clive. The grant of Diwani clearly was one such event in British imagination. So as you all know that this grant has been given, this power has been transferred to the company. Okay, the Diwani Raj, mainly the Diwani of the Bengal. So it is one kind of imagination for the Britishers. Then as Diwan, as a ruler of the Bengal, the company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control. So whatever the territory, whatever the region, whatever the provinces were there, which were under the control of the Britishers, so all the power, whatever the financial resources were there, whatever the revenue sources were there, these all were under the control of the company. Company mean to say under the Britishers. Now it had to think of administering the land and organizing its revenue resources. So now the company had to think, the company also thought about how they will administer, how they will control over the land, and how they will organize its revenue resources, how they can get more and more revenue, more and more income from the land and other resources which were available in their territory. This had to be done in a way that could yield enough revenue to meet the growing expenses of the company. So this had to be done. This had to be done by the Britishers. This had to be done by the company in a such way which could produce, yield means to say here, to produce enough revenue, enough income to meet the growing expenses of the company. Whatever the expenses of the company, so this particular revenue could meet its expenses. A trading company had also to ensure that it could buy the products. So as a trading company, that was East India Company, it had also to make sure that could buy the products it needed and sell what it wanted. The company had to also make sure whatever the products were there, they could be buy or to sell according to their wish, according to their will. Okay. Then after, over the years, the company also learned that it had to move with some cautions. So after some years, over the years, after passing some years as a Diwan of Bengal, so the company also learned many things from it. The company thought it had to move with some cautions. Mean to say they had to also took some kind of the precautions for something. Being an alien power, it needed to pacify those who in the past had ruled the countryside and enjoy authority and prestige. So, we saw of the cautions that has been given. Being an alien power means to say being a foreign, that is for foreign power, being a British power, being an European power. So, the company had to pay, that is specify those in the past who had ruled in the countryside. The countryside means to say the other parts of the subcontinent. So, they had to pacify about these all the rulers who had ruled in the different parts of the India and enjoyed authority and prestige. And these rulers who had enjoyed their authority as well as their respect and their fame in these places. Those who had held local power had to be controlled, but they could not be entirely eliminated. So the company thought who had held local powers in the different parts of the Indian subcontinent, they had to be controlled. They must be controlled by the company, but they could not be entirely eliminated. So we can't, means the company couldn't be totally, they will be not removed from their posts. Although there will be the control of the company, but these local rulers will not be removed from their post. How was this to be done? How the particular thing would be done? In this chapter, we will see how the company came to colonize the countryside, organize revenue sources, that is, redefine the rights of people and produce the crops it wanted. So mainly in this one chapter, we will come to know how the company, it just control over the different territories or different parts of the subcontinent and organize revenue resources, the income resources, and how they again define the rights of the people and which sort of the crops they wanted to produce, how they just went for it. Okay, then after this one, the revenue for the company, how the income it was got by the company. The company had become the Diwan of Bengal, but it still saw itself primarily as a trader. Although we know the company became the Diwan of the particular presidency, and even after that, the company primarily it was showing itself as a trader. It wanted a large revenue income, but unwilling to set up any regular system of assessment and collection. Although the company, it wanted a large amount of income, large revenue, but it didn't want to set up any regular system of assessment and collection. The company didn't want to just set up a system from where they can get regular collection. The effort was to increase the revenue as much as it could and buy fine quality and silk clothes as cheaply as possible. So, at the beginning, the company effort was that to increase the revenue, to just grow up the revenue, as well as that company could buy the fine quality of cotton and silk as cheap as possible. Within 5 years, the value of goods bought by the company in Bengal doubled. So within 5 years, as we all know that the company became the Diwan of Bengal, so within the 5 years, the value of the goods, whatever the goods were produced over there, it bought by the company in Bengal doubled. Whatever the goods after 5 years the company was purchasing, so it became doubled. Their price has become doubled. Before 1865, the company had purchased goods in India by importing gold and silver from Britain as we have already discussed in the previous chapters, whatever the goods were being purchased by the company before 1865, these all the goods were purchased by the company by with the help of gold and silver. Now the revenue collected in Bengal could finance the purchase of goods for export. Now the company was getting the enough income, enough revenue from the Bengal presidency, and with the help of this income, the company could purchase the goods from the Indians, from the local natives, for exporting to European countries. As soon as it was clear that the Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis, soon that happened in the Bengal presidency, mainly the Bengal economy, it was facing a deep crisis. A deep crisis means to say that is a deep kind of emergency over there. संकट जिसे हम कहते हैं. Artisans were deserting villages since they were being forced to sell their goods to company at low prices. Why it is so? That has been whoever the artisans were there, local artisans were there, they were just deserting villages. Deserting means to say they were just moving from their villages. They left their villages since they were being forced by the company to sell their goods only to the company in a very low prices. Peasants were unable to pay the dues that were being demanded from them. And whoever the farmers, whoever the cultivators who were there, they were not able to pay even their dues to the company, and which were demanded by the company. Artisanal production was in decline and agriculture cultivation showed sign of collapse. So whatever the production was being done by the artisans and by the cultivators in the field of agriculture, so it showed a sign of collapse, a sign of fall down of the production. Then in 1770, a terrible famine killed 10 million people in Bengal. So what happened? Unfortunately over there, in the year of 1770, a terrible famine, a terrible drought, akal padna jise hum kehte hain, this occurred in the Bengal presidency, and over 10 million people they died in this famine. About 1/3 of population was wiped out. About whatever the population total over there in the Bengal presidency, its 1/3 population has totally wiped out. Wiped out means totally just they were died over there. Okay. Then after what happens? See, the need to improve agriculture. Now some of the whoever the that is policymakers were there, so they thought that there was a need to improve in the agricultural field in India. What they have given under this one? See, if the economy was in ruin, could the company be certain of its revenue income? If the economy was in ruins, if the whatever the financial resources were there, if that is in the ruin means to say to fall down. Okay, could the company be certain of its revenue income? How the company will get its revenue? Definitely, most company officials began to feel that investment in land had to be encouraged and agriculture had to be improved. So whoever the company's officials were there, whoever the British officials were there, so they began to feel, they started to feel that there must be the investment in the land, and they had to increase to the peasants to improve the condition of the agricultural fields. Now, how was this to be done? How it will be done now? How it would have been done by them? After 2 decades, after 20 years of debate on the question, the company finally introduced the permanent settlement in the year of 1793. After the long discussion of the 20 years, so finally the company, it introduced one settlement, came to be known as permanent settlement, that was introduced by the company in the year of 1793. Mainly, this permanent settlement was introduced by Charles Cornwallis. Left side you can see the pic of Charles Cornwallis, okay, who was the Governor General of India when the permanent settlement was introduced. When this settlement was introduced, he was also the Governor General of India. Then by the term of the settlement, the Raja and Talukdars were recognized as zamindars. Under this particular permanent settlement, whoever the local kings and whoever the local zamindars or talukdars were there, they were recognized as zamindars who were having a big plots of the lands. They were considered as the zamindars. They were asked to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. So these Rajas and Talukdars, they were asked by the company to collect the rent. To collect the rent means to say to collect the tax from the peasants, from the farmers, and pay revenue to the company. And they had to pay to it to the company. The amount was to be paid fixed permanently. And whatever the amount were being paid to the zamindars, and the zamindars they had to pay to the company, it was fixed permanently. That is, it was not to be increased ever in future. So this particular tax and this particular income, this particular rent will not be increased ever in the future. It was felt that this would ensure a regular flow of revenue into the company's coffers and at the same time encourage the zamindars to invest in improving the land. So it was felt by the company officials, it will make sure a regular flow of the income for the company, because the tax was permanent. Okay, the revenue has been permanent by them, and the same amount that will be given to the company. Okay, there will be the regular flow of the revenue to company coffers, to company officials. At the same time, it has been also felt by the company, the zamindars will have they would invest in improving their lands. Since the revenue demand of the state would not be increased, the zamindar would benefit from increased production from the land. As under the permanent settlement, so they had to pay the fixed amount to the company. So as the zamindars, they just improve the production, improve the agricultural conditions, and they improve the land, and they just increase that is the production in their lands, and the zamindars they got the benefit from it, because whatever the extra, whatever the more production they were getting from their lands, so only the fixed amount of it they had to pay to the company. Now the problems, what problems that happened over there that has been given. The permanent settlement, however, created problems. Whatever this permanent settlement has been introduced, it has also created some problems. Company officials soon discovered that the zamindars were in fact not investing in the improvement of land. So whoever the company officials were there, so what they felt, they just felt and they just find out that the zamindars they were not investing in the improvement of in the land, means they were not taking any kind of the initiative for the improvement of the land. The revenue that had fixed was so high that the zamindars found it difficult to pay. Whatever the revenue that had been fixed by the company, so it was so high, the zamindars they found it very difficult to pay to the company. Anyone who failed to pay the revenue lost his zamindari. If any zamindar, whoever the Rajas and Talukdars who were made the zamindars, if they were failed to pay the revenue to the company, so they had to be also lost their zamindari over there. Numerous zamindaris were sold off at auction organized by the company, and the various the zamindaris were just took over. Their land had been taken by the company and they were sold by the company in an auction. Okay, auction means nilami lagana, means boli lagana, and after this one their land had been sold by the company. Then by the first decade of the 19th century, the situation changed. In the beginning of the 19th century, somewhat the situation it changed. The prices in the market rose and the cultivation slowly expanded. So whatever the goods they were in, these were just in the market, their prices has rose up. Okay, and the cultivation slowly expanded, and whatever the cultivation were being done by the cultivators, it had also expanded. This meant an increase in the income of the zamindars, but no gain for the company, since it could not increase a revenue demand that had fixed permanently. As we all know that although the production increased, So it means that the income of the zamindars, it increases. Okay, but no gain for the company. Why it is so? Because the revenue demand by the company, it had fixed by the company permanently. Even then, the zamindars did not have an interest in improving the land. Some had to lose their land in the earlier years of the settlement, and others now saw the possibilities of earning without the trouble and risk of investment. So as you all know that some of the zamindars, they had lost their land. It just took it had control by the company, and it was sold by the company in the auctions. So even after that, whoever the new zamindars were there, other zamindars were there, so they also not interested to invest in the improving of the land. Why it is so? That has been given. They saw the possibility of earning without the trouble, means without any risk and without any trouble. They wanted to earn something from the land. As long as the zamindars could give out the land to tenants and get rent, they were not interested in improving the land. As whoever the zamindars were there, they could give out the land to the tenants. Whoever the tenants, okay, जो भी उसमें काम करना चाहते थे, who wanted to do the work in the land, it had given to someone to do the production in these lands, and they used to get the rent, and they were not interested in improving the land. These zamindars were not interested to do any kind of the improvement in the land. Then, on the other hand, in the villages, the cultivator found the system extremely oppressive. So, whoever the peasants were there in the villages, whoever the cultivators were there, they found this system is very oppressive for them, very suppressive. Oppressive means very suppressive for them. The rent that he paid to the zamindars was high as right on the land was insecure. So whatever the rent, whatever the tax, whatever the rent the cultivator had to pay to the zamindar, it was so high, and his right on the land was insecure as well. Because if they were unable to pay, their land would have been, and their land will be seized. Okay. To pay the rent, he had to often take a loan from the moneylenders to pay the rent, to pay the tax. So the particular cultivator, the particular peasant, had to often take a loan from the moneylenders. And when he failed to pay the rent, he was evicted from the land, and he had cultivated for generations. So after this one, if any cultivator is unable to pay, if he failed to pay the tax, so he was evicted from the land. The land had been taken by him, and after this one, where he had cultivated for a long time for generations. जिस जमीन में उसने भाई बहुत सालों से काम किया, उस जमीन को उससे छीन लिया जाता था. This thing happened over there. Then a new system is devised. A new system that has been introduced over there. This system we will discuss in the next video. Okay.